Welcome to the premiere edition of Voices of Crimea. It is going to be the flagship station for our multimedia campaign to counter the Western narrative about Russia, about Crimea, and about the Ukraine. My guest tonight is Vladimir Kozin, who gave a very compelling speech at the forum in Moscow of the Friends of Crimea and Friends of Russia. Vladimir, welcome to the premiere edition of this show.
Regis, thank you very much for your very kind invitation and for your introduction.
So, Vladimir, I would like to give you the opportunity to present what you spoke about in Moscow in Russian and now in English for a worldwide audience.
Okay, Regis, thank you. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I'm Vladimir Kozin, now speaking from my Moscow flat, and I would like to repeat in general terms my remarks I made November 15th, also in Moscow, at the Forum of Friends of Crimea. In terms of preface, I would like to stress that this forum was very timely arrangement, and I'm very grateful to the government of the Republic of Crimea and the Russian side here in Moscow for organizational efforts that made that event very successful. While addressing the audience in mid-November at this forum in Russian, I touched upon actually 5, probably 6 major issues related to Crimean Peninsula and to the special military operation we started on 24th of February this year. The first issue is that assessment of the current situation in terms of terminology. So from the Russian side, it was said from the very beginning, I mean from February 24th, by the Russian President Vladimir Putin, that it will be called special military operation, not war, not aggression, not confrontation, but special military operation. From Moscow perspective, it is quite clear, and we in Russia actually understood that term from the very beginning. But in terms of characterizing actions, what Kiev, what Ukrainian side is doing and has been doing against Donbass and against the Russian Federation, there is still ambiguity and not crystal clear terminology definition. What is going on from the Ukrainian side in terms of us? Some people say that it's a civil war. Some people say that it is Ukrainian aggression. Some people use another term like military confrontation between East and West. Others claim that it is a regional conflict between Ukraine and the Russian Federation. Some people in the West especially do not realize who started this kind of military encounter in the first place. Was it Russia or was it Ukraine? So my opinion, my personal opinion, definitely is very simple. In terms of the Russian side, it is special military operation. And I will come back to another term I personally would like to suggest. But if I portray the Ukrainian movements, Ukrainian actions, I would use, and I suggested there in mid-November at this forum, suggested quite a different formula, not a civil war, not a regional conflict, not a military confrontation, because all these characteristics are hiding the crux of the matter. What is behind the scene? Who is going to do first and who is going to do the second rate steps? So, in my view, it is military aggression of Ukraine and NATO against the Russian Federation. Previously, before October 5th, when four new territories joined the Russian territory and the Russian Federation state, I mean, Donetsk People's Republic, Lugansk People's Republic, plus Zaporozhye region or Zaporozhskaya Oblast in Russian, and Khersonskaya Oblast or Kherson region in English, they joined us officially according to our federal laws from October 5th this year. Well, Crimea, as you know, joined the Russian Federation in June 2014, much earlier. So why I'm against using a civil war? Because a civil war means that non-military people, civilians, from Ukrainian side, from Russian side, are allegedly fighting with each other. But no, nothing of the kind. We in the Russian Federation and Donbass earlier were fighting with the Ukrainian regular armed forces, plus territorial defense, plus ultra-nationalist formations like Azov, Right Sector, Donbass, etc., etc. And on the other hand, civilians in Donbass, they have not fighting with the rest of Ukraine. And by the way, during this confrontational periods which started in August 2014, the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republic never crossed the administrative border of separating their territory with the rest of Ukraine. I mean, they stayed completely within their oblast or regional territory. So the Donbass People's Militia, they have been called themselves, were fighting also with the Ukrainian armed forces, with Ukrainian territorial defense, and with Ukrainian ultra-nationalist, ultra-Nazi formations. That's why I have used quite a different term called military aggression of Ukraine against, prior to October 5th, against Donbass, and from October 5th this year, combined military aggression of Ukraine and NATO against the Russian Federation, because we absorbed 5 territories, Crimea plus 4 new territories, as I have already enumerated them. Up to now, the discussion is underway, and yesterday, November 26th, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov described the terminology related to what Ukrainians are doing as a war against us, and he stressed quite a characteristic feature of what we are doing. We are not fighting with Ukrainian nationals, with Ukrainian subjects, with Ukrainian citizens, but we are fighting with the armed forces of Ukraine plus ultra-Nazi formations. That's a very good phenomenon that Russian foreign minister also tried to describe the developments in such a way. Second issue, I also raised the issue of contemporary military political situation. So after we retreated according to plan, not hastily, but very carefully, from the right bank of the Dnieper River we previously got into our hands, and we retreated from Kherson city, and more than 30,000 Russian soldiers and officers came back to the left side of the Dnieper River and concentrated on that side. Plus, they have brought by themselves more than 5,000 heavy artillery, tanks, mortars, etc., etc. Even were able to get back some military hardware that needed major repair after war fighting. So we just set a very firm foot behind the Dnieper River, and many times since then, Ukrainian armed forces wanted to cross the Dnieper River and to attack Russian military formations on that side in Kherson and Zaporozhye, by the way, region as well. Together, they failed. No chances. But on the other hand, while containing them in the south of Ukraine, we managed to move forward into some areas up north, in the northern part of Ukraine, against the territory adjacent to Donbass, the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics, and managed to capture the key populated areas that gave us a chance to control major railroad and heavy-duty automobile highways. But the situation is relatively stable. Neither side, nor Ukrainian nor Russian side, were able to achieve major thrust or major drive into the territory of each other. So it's a kind of the situation of containment of each other forces, with our side managing to get some new areas. We recently also retreated some time ago. The third issue I also tackled during the forum of the Friends of Crimea or Crimean Friends was issue number 3. It's continuous shelling of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, which, by the way, is now located on the Russian territory, controlled by the Russian armed forces, and became a part and parcel of the entire Russian Federation. I mean, Zaporozhye region, because Zaporozhskaya or Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is located very close on the water reservoir in the Dnieper River, and on the other side of this water reservoir, there are areas still controlled by Ukrainian armed forces. And namely, Ukrainian armed forces are shelling Zaporozhye nuclear power plant since last summer. The massive attacks on the plant took place starting from November 19th, then 20th and 21st of November this year. Well, it was obvious shelling by the Ukrainian armed forces that used heavy, high caliber artillery pieces and multiple launch rocket systems like HIMARS. But unfortunately, the Ukrainian side was not able to get back any part of Zaporozhye region or any part of Zaporozhskaya nuclear power plant so far, and they will never do it. Unfortunately, the International Atomic Energy Agency, headed by Argentinian Director General Rafael Grossi, is displaying a very dishonest policy concerning this regular shelling of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant by Ukrainian armed forces. Though it is obvious that shelling is being done from the city of Marganets and Nikopol and some other villages on the other side of this water reservoir, Kakhovskaya water reservoir, quite a big one, from the other side. But we are managing to suppress any fire that is coming from that place, from Ukrainian controlled area to the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, unfortunately. And being unable to destroy six nuclear reactors at the Zaporozhskaya nuclear power plant, Ukrainian armed forces are shelling other auxiliary, supplementary buildings and warehouses. For example, warehouses where fresh nuclear fuel is stored, and other buildings where spent nuclear fuel is being located, plus cooling system, water cooling system, because you know that nuclear power plants, nuclear reactors should be cooled because they are permitted to work at a special temperature. As far as I remember, I'm not an atomic scientist, but as far as I remember, as far as I have heard, the temperature should not exceed 360 Celsius plus 360 degrees Celsius in each reactor. If more, it can melt down and there might be explosion of the casket of that reactor. And like at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, catastrophe took place in 1986. And there will be a radioactive emission and that can travel any direction. It depends on the wind rows. So, unfortunately, the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, still has not identified that this kind of shelling are being conducted and were being conducted by the Ukrainian armed forces. Though it is very easy, because it is easy to understand where from the missile or artillery pieces are coming from. And for IAEA observers or experts currently sitting on the spot, I mean, at the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, can verify it very easily. But unfortunately, by doing so, the IAEA specifically camouflage and conceal this kind of visual information from the world community. And in so doing, it actually permits the Kiev regime to continue shelling of the nuclear power plant located in Zaporozhye region and nearby the city of Energodar. Energodar. It's the name of the game of the city. So another issue I described during the forum was that unfortunately the flow of military hardware from Western countries, mainly from the United States of America, plus other NATO member states, plus US, plus 29 other NATO member states, plus around 28 non-aligned nations, I mean, not the member of any military pacts, are also sending military arms to Ukrainian armed forces. And I have come across some fresh new figures I borrowed from the Pentagon. And the Pentagon said that from the beginning of a special military operation by the Russian armed forces, the United States of America and NATO member countries managed to send any kinds of military hardware to Ukrainian armed forces by heavy military transportation system, heavy lifters, exactly by using 878 sorties, 878 flights from the western part of Europe to Ukrainian airspace and landed at Ukrainian military airfields and civil airports. And as to heavy-duty highways, more than 4,000 trailers, big trucks, delivered the same kind of military hardware from NATO member states and other countries to the Ukrainian armed forces. It's a huge amount. I see people are experts are naming the figure, the overall figure already supplied by the Western community to Ukraine, varying from 80 billion US dollars, or even 100 billion US dollars. And roughly one fifth, or exactly by the time we are talking to each other, Regis, the United States of America alone has donated the Ukrainian armed forces military hardware at the price of more than 21 billion US dollars from 2014, and around 20 billion US dollars from the time when President Joseph Biden became de facto and de jure the next US president. So the situation is very alarming. It influences upon the procrastination of military confrontation. This kind of Western weapons kills Russian soldiers, military men, and civilian people without arms who are not engaged in military fighting. So, and figures are tremendous. And each day, when I switched on the radio from Donbass, and people from there are naming that some more people have been killed during Western arms and ammunition. Some people have been wounded. Such a number of schools and houses have been destroyed or demolished completely, entirely, each day and night. And the last issue I also tackled with the audience. Unfortunately, there was not a question and answer session because the agenda was fully packed from the early morning till late in the evening, and I wasn't able to sit till the end of this meeting because of heavy engagements. So the last issue was political settlement. Is it possible? Is it expedient? Oh yes, many said that it is expedient, it is needed, it is badly needed. But is it possible to start it? And the majority of us just said openly that in the current situation, it is impossible. Despite the fact that Moscow several times made open statements, public statements, that we are ready to debate the resolution of this situation with Ukraine. But Ukrainians do not want it all. Look, President Vladimir Zelensky, by his own hand, has written his own presidential decree prohibiting him, Vladimir Zelensky, and the rest of in Ukraine, among chieftains, to start negotiations with Moscow, with the Russian Federation. Have you heard in any international example, any fact that any ruler of the state prohibited himself to talk to the opposite number in any kind of political negotiations, political talks? I do not remember in my long career at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now I'm retired, definitely because of my age. So the situation is rather tense. it should be resolved through peaceful, non-military means, but we will never return all 5 territories that joined the Russian Federation by vox populi, by the voice of people, by the uh, desire of local people in these 5 territories of the former Ukraine. So, by the way, they are historical areas. Once upon a time, they belonged to the Russian Empire, to the Russian state, before 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution, and soon after, and during the wartime, we just liberated that, etc., etc. So, Regis, that is the full story. I described the way that I have described during my Russian presentation at the forum. But I would like, it occurred to me one more point I would like to add. Today, a friend of mine from the West put a question to me quite straightforwardly. Vladimir, he asked me, but why Russian armed forces do not destroy Ukrainian armed forces who are shelling Zaporozhye nuclear power plant before they start opening fire at this nuclear power plant? And I said to him, so my dear friend, it's very difficult to destroy any Ukrainian heavy artillery or multiple launch rocket systems fire at the station because they are moving very quickly, and Ukrainians are subscribed to the strategy after having one salvo from one unit of howitzer M777 or MLRS Heimer M142, they immediately disappear from the site they made a fire, because they understand that during counter battery fire, we can destroy them, and they change the position, the location. It's a tricky thing, but it's very difficult to destroy it. But nevertheless, we used to destroy this kind of system when they are shelling Zaporozhye nuclear power plant very quickly, well, in several seconds after their fire. And we also managed to intercept incoming missiles, artillery missiles, and rockets missiles while in flight by using interceptor missiles that catch them when they are traveling in the air. That's also a kind of very good system. But nevertheless, there is certainly a political solution of the issue of shelling Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Political. And the United Nations Organization and the IAEA, they are doing nothing to prevent shelling. I haven't heard. Let's look. I put it in a different way. I look through all the official documents that have been posted at the IAEA website. They are in English, very easy to get, very easy to read. I have not found any critical remarks addressed to Kiev. So what are you doing, guys? You are blackmailing the entire Europe. You are just would like to destroy a highly sensitive asset full of radioactive material. fuel, spent or fresh nuclear fuel. What are you doing? Nobody yet have have done it. You can verify by yourself. Visit, please, the International Atomic Energy Agency website or the United Nations website. You will find that it is very bad that the nuclear power plant in Zaporozhye is being shelled, and that's all. Full stop. But who is shelling? Who should be reprimanded? Who should be called on to the trial, to judge, to a courtroom? Nobody. Nobody. It's impossible. It's impossible to believe, but it is real truth. So, Regis, here I will put a very small full stop and ask you to put me some questions if you so desire.
Yes, I do wish to pose a couple of questions, Vladimir. I thought your presentation at the forum and tonight was very compelling, very factual, but I would like to ask you for your opinion on what Russia has been doing since October, when the bridge at Kerch was partially demolished,
Mhm.
when the pipeline Nord Stream 1 and 2 was partially destroyed. Russia began an all-out daily missile attack on the electric infrastructure of Ukraine.
Right.
Power stations, power lines that have basically made all of Ukraine dark for many hours at a time. These missile attacks continue.
Yeah.
What are the implications for Ukraine to be able to continue fighting when their electric trains cannot run? They cannot get new recruits. They cannot get new equipment, new ammunition. What does this mean in terms of the conflict, Vladimir?
Yes, Regis, you are right. Starting from October 10th, that is two days after the Crimean bridge was attacked by Ukrainian agents, we started shelling by using cruise missiles and other type of long-range missiles with a pinpoint accuracy, and actually destroyed electric Ukrainian electric grid throughout the entire country. And Ukrainian leaders are concealing the percentage of destroyed facilities of the Ukrainian national electric grid by saying that 40% only. But 40% was on the 1st of November. Nowadays, it's more than 90% because uh, uh, NATO spacecraft monitoring the situation on the globe have spotted a total blackout over the entire Ukrainian republic. So we cannot tell exactly what is the percentage of the destruction. And Ukrainians are, just as I said, they are concealing this real facts and figures. But the destruction is very substantial. And we will continue this kind of job because our people in Donbass started the same kind of practice during the more than last 8 years. more than last 8 years time. So is it a revenge? Oh yes, it is a revenge. Is it a method of containing military drive of Ukrainian armed forces against Russian territory, the new territories or old Russian territories? Yes, it's a desire to block any kind of ambitions in that sense. But some people are asking, uh, can this kind of attacks, destroying of electric grids of Ukraine, can they stop the war or Ukrainian aggression and NATO aggression against the Russian Federation? Unfortunately, not. Because all these artillery howitzers, multiple launching rocket systems, they have separate autonomous electric power systems, very small, but can be used to fire missiles, to maintain communication between the different units. And that's why each day we are facing the same kind of attacks that have been done by Ukrainian armed forces before October 10th, when we started shelling electric grid and electric power station throughout the entire Ukraine. So it means that this kind of military attacks are essential, but they are not final. They are not final. They are very important, but they should be complemented or supplemented by some other military means, like destruction of lines of delivery of heavy weapons from Western countries to Ukraine. And I would like to recall a historic uh, experience. Look, in the upcoming December, we will celebrate 80 years of a special military operation called in Russian Mali Saturn, or in English Little Saturn. Saturn is like a planet in the solar system. Little Saturn operation that began early in December 1949 near Stalingrad, had two goals: to destroy Italian and Romanian armies, also stationed near Stalingrad and helping fascist Germany to capture the city called Stalingrad that time. Now it's called Volgograd. And the second mission of the Little Saturn operation was to sever all lines of supply from Germany to a besieged army headed by Field Marshal Paulus of the fascist Germany near Stalingrad. We managed to destroy two armies, eighth army of Italian army and third Romanian army near Stalingrad during Little Saturn operation. And we managed to cut all supply routes, delivering tanks, artillery pieces, ammunition, then personnel to a besieged German groupings near Stalingrad, headed by Paulus. And the grouping was either killed or surrendered massively, including Field Marshal Paulus. So why not to repeat this kind of Little Saturn operation in terms of destroying and eliminating various soldiers of fortune from various countries who, under the guise of merchants, of volunteers, or de facto camouflaged active military soldiers and officers from major NATO countries. And why not to stop supply routes of any kind, either at sea, on land, or in the air, delivering extra ammunition and extra weapons to the Ukrainian armed forces to continue this combined Ukrainian/NATO aggression against the Russian Federation. Yes, we should do this. And this kind of proposal is now widely circulated in our community. And I think that the time has come to implement, to repeat this kind of military strategy or plan, master plan called Little Saturn. The name of the game should be different. It doesn't matter. The essence should be contained like 80 years ago. Regis?
Well, Vladimir, these massive missile strikes have crippled the Iranian railway, which is electric. So they're not able to resupply like they were before without the trains bringing these reinforcements, mercenaries, tanks, howitzers, and other military weapons to the front. But there's something that most people have not been talking about, and that is the 300,000 additional troops that were called up that have been undergoing extensive training across Russia. Their training is about to end. Winter is about to begin. Do you see what is about to happen when these 300,000 troops enter the front? That this may be the final blow?
Well, I think that you should add, Regis, to 300,000 mobilized people, officially mobilized as a partial mobilization. I should add something more: 20,000 volunteers who voluntarily joined the Russian armed forces and enjoy the same rights, the same social rights, the same benefits like normal GIs officially drafted. So 320, and plus national militia in Donbass, plus also volunteers in Zaporozhye and Kherson region controlled by the Russian armed forces, also just allocated its personnel, its people who voluntarily would like to defend the historic lands and territories. And people do not like to live under the roof of ultra-Nazi regime, entrenched and empowered by the West in Ukraine. So I think that gradually it will not be like snapping fingers or at one go, at one gulp, right, like drinking water. But gradually we will manage to expand the territory under our control. Because, look, I would like to remind the esteemed audience that the overall line of engagement, or the front line separating Ukrainian armed forces and Russian armed forces, is 1,000 100 kilometers long, and on each side, in every portion of this 1,100 kilometers front line are opposing forces. But look, we can fight as long as is needed, but many times after February 24th this year, when President Vladimir Putin ushered in the special military operation, we repeated many times that two major goals announced by him, demilitarization and denazification of forces in Ukraine, this will be an ironclad goals of the Russian Federation, and we have all our resources, all the resources, no limitations, natural resources, intellectual resources, industrial resources, designer resources, and the majority of people are backing this kind of decision, because the other way around, another option would be very suicidal for the Russian Federation, and people understand this. And just a handful of persons, they have already left the Russian Federation and let them live in the Western community as happy as they can. They are not involved in the decision-making process, and we are happy that they have left the Russian Federation, because we have a problem in a very difficult situation to find the proper English equivalent. Baba с возу, кобыле легче. If there is a cart, a road wagon driven by a horse, and if any person sitting on this wagon or on this cart just jump from it on the ground, it would be easy for the horse to move the cart or covered wagon all along, like in the English American song, sorry. Roll along, covered wagon, roll along. In the turn of your wheels, I hear the song. City ladies may be fine, but they need that girl of mine. Roll along, covered wagon, roll along. Yes, we'll do it.